Snow White and the Seven Deadly Sins is now in theaters, and it looks like the movie is pretty much imploding from the seams. And that's probably the nicest way to put how this movie is going on right now. However, of course, like always, when another slopfest gets released and underperforms, it's our fault that such a thing has happened again. So, let's dive into this. Apparently, if you don't like Snow White, it's cause you're racist. This comes from CBC.com. Why are there so many controversies around Snow White? In this article, two people who call themselves culture critics try to decipher why everybody is just turning on Snow White these days. These two culture critics, which is not a real job, not only prove that they know nothing about the culture they talk about, but refuse to actually address the multiple elephants in the room. One critic here named Christina Escobar says this is why Snow White failed. Listen to this. So first of all, obviously, there's a pattern where Disney does these live-action remakes. They put women of color in the star roles, and then they leave them up there to fry more or less. They do not provide additional support, they don't back up their actresses, and we've seen this for a long time in their studio down to the original release of Star Wars and Kelly Marie Tran. She got a ton of hate. Mark Hamill spoke up for her, but Disney didn't say anything, and so this is their pattern. That's not true at all, and allegedly these culture critics are proving they clearly are just pushing some stupid forced agenda to bypass the real reason why Snow White has been failing the way that it has. First of all, claiming that people don't want to see people of color in things is, well, stupid. There have been people of color in movies since well before any of us were born. This whole shtick that people don't want to see a black woman or a Spanish lady, let's just call it what it is. It's cope. It has everything to do with how these actors treat their audiences and how they respect their roles. The reality when it comes to Snow White is that they've done none of that here with this movie. We already know that she's called Snow White because she now survives a snowstorm. Like, okay, I live in Canada. I survive snowstorms all the time here, yet nobody congratulates me about it. Secondly, and this is obvious to anyone who's been following Snow White as a story for a while now, it's clearly Rachel Skinwalker Zegler's fault as to why this movie has been failing the way that it has. She's been openly attacking well over half of the United States with her comments for years now. Like where Zegler wrote this on Instagram that read, "May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace." And then she called him to abandon X and all of that and said F Donald Trump. Like, here's the thing, right? It's never a good idea to attack the hand that feeds you, and especially when it comes to the viewer, you shouldn't make it your priority to ever attack them. Because, let's be honest, the viewer owes you nothing. You have to prove why they should watch you. Engage with the content, or in this case, buy a ticket to go see your CGI slop movie in theaters, so that you still have a career in the future. But the reality is that people like Zegler are surrounded by hordes of like-minded, out-of-touch types that hate anything that is conservative, or Trump, or whatever goes against their liberal echo chamber bubbles that they all live in. So in a way, it's understandable why Zegler would think that she's in the right or comfortable enough to go out of her way to publicly state that she wants no Trump supporters to know peace, because everyone that surrounds her on the daily, they all think and act the same way that she does. Of course, she's learned the hard way that expressing her echo chamber opinions that clearly are not the majority anymore is a bad recipe for disaster. And I, like many of you, are tired of people attacking others for their political leanings. You like Trump? What do you don't want mass migration of people that just refuse to work when they come here? You don't like being taxed to high heaven so your money can keep some guy and his 7 kids fed that demand that the United States just turns into the very country that he just fled from? How dare you? What are you, a racist? A Trump supporter? May you never know peace. We should freeze your bank account and make an example out of you. It's the same thing over here in Canada, where I live too. I'm sick of paying taxes knowing that the money that I pay is just going to go feed some useless man who refuses to learn how to integrate into Canada because he doesn't want to, and I should have to smile and pay my taxes. Dude, I'm seriously just considering every other day on just leaving this country behind because it's not getting better over here either. But the point here is that when out-of-touch millionaires decide that it's their God-given right to tell you how you should think or act, or in this case believe even, you know that it's going to cause blowback, and the only comparison that I can make to Snow White's clear box office implosion is that what's happening here is pretty much what has been going on with Gamergate over in the video games industry. People are just quickly realizing, wow, we don't have to support the slop anymore. We don't have to go watch Snow White or any of these live-action remakes that don't deserve to exist in the first place, in my humble opinion. Because it's all just corporate soulless trash that is being regurgitated by a company that has lost the ability to tell new stories for years now. And if you just need one comparison on how to at least treat your fans when it comes to these remakes versus how not to, just go look at the Lilo and Stitch remake and then compare it to Snow White. Although I will still not see any of these movies in theaters because I just refuse to, I will admit at least that Stitch, he looks cute as hell. He's got that kind of vacant stare where you can tell there's a brain in there, but there's not much happening at all. He's sort of a little R to the tarded, if you will, kind of guy, but you know that kind of what makes him charming. Like, he is cute, I gotta admit. And when I look at Lilo and Stitch, which stars an actual child as Lilo, it's obvious that this movie is not meant to be taken seriously at all. It's about as kids' movie as a kids' movie can get these days, and looking at the reception to that trailer, Lilo and Stitch is just going to make $1 billion easily. But why is that going to do likely well when Snow White is gonna bomb? Probably because the kid who plays Lilo, thankfully, knows nothing about politics, or I hope not, or the real world yet, I also hope not, and is just an innocent little kid. I mean, that would definitely help everything. I'm pretty sure we're not gonna see little real-life Lilo actor girl grabbing her phone and saying, all Trump supporters should know peace. Like, come on. That kid probably just likes to eat food, run around with her friends, and watch little kid shows, and I mean, good for her. That's what a kid should be doing after all. But it's so obvious that the venom, no, not that venom, of Rachel Zegler is just poisoning this movie so badly that nobody in their right mind really wants to support this movie out of principle alone. All over social media, you can find screenshots of people posting empty theaters for this movie opening weekend, and can you really blame them? Who the hell wants to support this movie? The likelihood here is that when Snow White is inevitably listed as a box office bomb, that Rachel Zegler's career in terms of A-list movies is going to be going to the wayside as well. Because the girl hasn't had a single super well-performing movie in her career. Maybe her Hunger Games prequel did okay at best, but Shazam 2 flopped hard, West Side Story flopped, and now Snow White. I don't even know what else she was in. Oh yeah, that Y2K movie, and that also flopped too. I guess Hollywood just needs to realize that this girl is not the box office gold they think she is, and this was before the comments even. I mean, the fact that you got videos like this circling of Rachel Zegler is just, awful.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
She can't even make a sad video without somehow trying to make it into a performance. Like, this is faker than the CGI dwarves, man. Come on.
And there are many of them.
At least we know that if the aliens ever do try to invade us one day, that we can just send Rachel Zegler and her publicist in a pod, kind of like Bob in Reboot, and then just shoot them into space. And once those aliens meet Rachel, they'll just turn around and leave us, because they'll get gaslighted into believing that we're all like her. It's the small wins, you know. Get it? Because they're dwarves. Anyway, there was more said by this website. My god, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. I'm sorry, but saying people don't want to see Snow White because the actor is a Latina woman, that is crazy, bro. Y'all really gonna try to say that audiences are racist when your Little Mermaid CGI slop film broke $500 million? And like I said, Lilo and the small weird dog alien thing with 4 arms is going to easily make somewhere near $1 billion when it releases too. People don't actually care what you look like, but they do care what you say and think of others. And this is just another classic example of a narcissist believing that the world should eat out of her small clammy hands no matter what sort of slop she is sending their way. Like, look man, these critics continue their apology tour with this. What I believe they're trying to do is have their cake and eat it too. They want to appeal to younger audiences who are more diverse, who want to see people of color in roles, and that's a proven recipe for success at the box office, as we see in a UCLA Hollywood Diversity Report. So we know that that works, but they also don't want to anger these loud vocal minority of racist folks who were offended by women of color stepping into these roles. And so they don't say anything, and it creates this truly unfair situation for often the young women who are taking these roles. It also sets up a very frustrating cultural conversation where no matter what pinnacle you get to, no matter how far you go, I mean, you're starring in Snow White, the film that launched Walt Disney, the studio is not going to protect you. You are on your own as a Latina, as a black woman, as an Asian woman, and that sucks. Wait, hold up. Let me get this straight. So there's a vocal minority of racist people that don't want to see Snow White, and they are to blame for this movie failing. But then you also say that the mass majority of the target audience wants and supports diverse people in these sorts of roles. Yet, when we look at the box office, which let's look at that real quick here, let me pull it up. So here's Daily Mail's info on the box office for Snow White that I have in front of me. And to make it more fair, we're going to compare Snow White to Little Mermaid, because they both star diverse women of color. Oh, so amazing in their lead roles. And look at these two compared to one another. Snow White is set to make around $45 to $55 million, I think. Is that worldwide or just domestic? I don't know. Anyway. Then comparing it to Little Mermaid's box office when it opened, that film made around $95 million in the same period as Snow White. So you're telling me that the Black Mermaid movie made almost twice what this Latina Snow White movie made, yet both movies, by these culture critics' reasonings, are led by what they consider to be box office poison to this vocal minority of racists. And yet they state that this vocal minority, which means they're not a big group obviously, have this sort of sway over these movies' performances. But the reality is that the general movie-going audience are not as tightly in tune with the culture war stuff or anything like that anyways. So this is one big winded way of me saying that the reason why these culture critics think these movies fail is cause they star non-white people and nobody wants to watch them. That's a little racist, isn't it? I mean, surely the hordes of Disney fans that are out there, most of whom are young girls, would want to see something like this, right? I can't imagine the average little Disney girl who likes to play dress up is staying up late watching these supposed racist alt-right YouTube channels or X accounts that these critics claim are poisoning these movies and their fans. So then why are the most average, most drone-like Disney fans not watching this movie either? Could it be that it just looks like slop? Yes, but also that the average Disney fan at least will look into the lead actors of the next big remake that they want to watch, which then circles this all the way back to Rachel Zegler and that her comments are attacking people. Mostly those, as we know, are conservatives, and that seems to have even made the most liberal of liberal Disney fans also not want to support the movie either. So you lost your core audience because you made the slop, but you also lost the audience that you need in the long run because you attacked them with stupid comments. This movie is not failing because everybody's apparently racist. Most people probably think that Rachel Zegler is some sort of offshoot mix of a white woman anyways at first glance. I didn't even know that she was Latina. I actually thought she was like white and maybe something like Filipino or something because that's what she looks like to me. But then again, I'm not a master of eugenics. I'm not going to go out of my way to test the blood of every actor to ensure I can support them or not. I just want good movies like everyone else that's out here, but this means that Snow White will perform even worse than the Marvels, if you can believe it. Which means we're likely looking at one of the biggest Disney bombs since the Marvels and then some here. This is career-damaging stuff. And I think ultimately what'll happen is that all the blame will be shifted onto Rachel Zegler so that the rest of the cast and producers and such can walk away claiming that the film didn't flop because of them, but solely because of her, which, I mean, they're kind of right. They're basically going to throw Rachel off a cliff like Black Widow and sacrifice her to the cinema gods for another chance at greatness. I mean, I just know that Mark Webb, who directed this movie, is seething, knowing that he spent years of his life making this slop with all the studio interference and his actors being stupid. But at least he used that money to get himself new teeth, because look at those things. Those things are thingin' alright. They are very white. Nice. And I mean, look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores. It's abysmal. Apparently this movie also has the lowest cinema score for a Disney movie too, which is sitting, by the way, at a B+, which, I don't know, man. B+ sounds pretty good to me grade-wise, but then again, I got a chimp brain, so don't count on me here. But these culture critics eventually come to the conclusion that everyone else has a year ago in their little piece here where they finally say this. But also, in addressing this within the movie, because it's such a broken movie, there's nothing rousing or compelling about the Snow White character. Rachel Zegler's social media is more compelling than the character she plays within the movie. The movie doesn't manifest as any kind of coherent statement about fascism or power or resistance or femininity or anything, because as a movie, it's sort of a mess. Wow, imagine that. No wonder you morons put this near the end of your article, because most people would just read a paragraph near the top of it and leave the website altogether. But it's good at least that these critics are inevitably unable to salvage this movie despite their white knighting. The fact they tried to place the blame on Snow White on Trump supporters, as if the average blue-collar 35-year-old man is somehow the target audience for a movie like this, but eventually admitting that the fact that the movie is just slop and Rachel Zegler is to blame is incredible to me. Yes, you morons, the problem here is not the fans. Why would anyone want a bad remake of a beloved classic movie? If I had the Infinity Gauntlet, I would will all of these remakes out of existence personally, because there's nothing wrong with the animated movies. I find them all perfectly fine for what they are. There's a reason why these movies are considered timeless classics. And I personally don't believe we need to remake good things, because that's not what remakes should be about per se. We should be remaking stuff that sucks. But in a video game comparison, I guess, a remake is more justifiable as long as they just make it look better, modernize the controls and whatnot. But the sad reality with both games remakes these days, and really movies too, is that the people in charge of this sort of stuff, they just can't help themselves, but also inject modern activism into them. And then it just ruins and doesn't work, because you've now taken something that was timeless in its themes and message, like Snow White, but decided that it needed to be made for the TikTok liberal woman who unironically puts "if you voted for Trump, swipe left" on her Tinder profile. You're taking something that was perfectly fine for what it was and then ruined it to appeal to people who are just morons as well. This entire thing is just a dumpster fire. I think all the live action remakes are just pointless. I'd much rather Disney just make new things, but this would require hiring real talent, and they clearly refuse to do that. So what are we going to do then? In 10 years' time, we'll just have another Snow White remake, another Lion King remake? They'll probably remake Peter Pan again, since the last one didn't do so well on Disney+. Like, at what point do the diminishing returns of the already diminishing returns start to compel the people in charge? That you can't just keep spewing out the same movies over and over again. It's sort of like AI. While people do hate AI, the reality is that it can only pull from what already is. It can't, in theory, yet anyway, make something entirely new or original, because its base parameters has to pull from existing art or software and so on. So this means that AI cannot ever technically make a unique art style, or a unique story, or tell something that is wholly original on its own. Because anything it does make will just take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, swill it all together into the gray slop that it is, and then shoot it out its mechanized rectum for all to see and eat. But this is how Disney feels like to me these days. They are, in this case of their flagship Disney movies, largely just becoming like AI themselves. Just reiterating and regurgitating the same things over and over again. Sure, once in a while something new gets made, like Moana or Coco. But the pace at which new stories get told versus what is being remade is genuinely ridiculous. They're already making Moana into a live-action movie, for God's sakes. How long until Coco is live-action, or Soul, or Seeing Red? Is Seeing Red even Disney? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. I bet you will get Big Hero 6 remake eventually too. The point still remains that the corporatized way so many of these movies are made these days, it just doesn't allow for anything cool or really original anymore. I can't remember who it was, but someone at the Oscars was on stage and said that they should take that $300 million budget meant for like one movie, and instead take that money and make $10 million movies that rely on original ideas and smaller sets and more unique voices being given a chance to tell a story. And I agree, most great movies that I see these days are never the big budget ones. I haven't been wowed by an animated movie since probably Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And I rarely, if ever, actually go to the theater to see any movies anymore. The last movie I saw in theaters, I think, was Nosferatu. Because why bother? All this slop is gonna hit a streaming service anyways, and even when they do sequels to older good movies like I can't even speak. Oh my god. Like Gladiator, for example, they ruin it with feminist propaganda slop. Like, I don't want to see that. Like, listen to these snippets of other reviews for Snow White. One review said, "Believe the anti-hype, it's that bad. It represents a new low for cultural desecration and for a venerable 102-year-old entertainment company that now looks at its source material with a pinched nose of disgust. The timeless classic, a groundbreaking achievement for animation, has been turned into another pointless and awkward live-action automaton that vanishes from your mind the second it's over. These movies that are legendary and classic are literally just being made into pretty much AI slop feminist movies that are not only not better than the originals, but they also are retroactively making those original works that they're based on worse by existing. This is why I refuse to see the Lion King remake or the Beauty and the Beast one. I don't want to know what they added or removed from those movies. Because I just want to remember those movies for what they were when I saw them as a kid, not what Disney or their activist freak management teams think it should represent now in current day. I heard the Lion King prequel makes it so that Scar is more justified now in killing Mufasa now. Like, yeah, no thanks. That is all non-canon to me. None of it exists in my brain. When I look at all the movies that Disney has made in the past few years, it's just so much by committee crap. I can't believe that anyone would pay of their own free will to watch any of this stuff in theaters for the most part. And don't get me started on how every movie they make now is either unbelievably dark image-wise or bland as hell like Deadpool and Wolverine was, which is all done on purpose because so many of these movies get fixed in post-production. And the darker the movie is, like in Little Mermaid's case, I don't mean the actor, I mean literally the image itself, the easier it is for the CGI artist to hide and fix mistakes. And oh yeah, since we're nearing the end of the video, I guess I can also talk spoilers here for a second too. So if you somehow don't want Snow White remake ruined for you, I guess click off now. But who are we kidding? Nobody cares, so let me just tell you how it ends. So, too long didn't read version. Snow White eats the poison apple, gets kissed, she wakes up, she rallies the dwarves and the bandits because the love interest isn't a prince anymore but a criminal, I guess. I don't know how that's better. But anyway, they go to the evil queen. She tries to get Snow White to attack her to, ruin her public image, I guess. Snow White then remembers the names of the guards' wives, so the guards are like, oh, she knows us, and then they betray the queen. I'm not kidding. And then the queen is just kind of overthrown through kindness, and then she goes to her magic mirror and attacks it. And then it just kind of like swallows her whole, and that's it, they win. So I guess Disney didn't kill off the queen like they did in the original movie here. She's instead trapped, I guess, for a potential sequel, where the queen could, I don't know, return to some sort of magical Doctor Strange magic mirror combination powered being. I have no idea. Nobody wants a sequel to this movie, man. Nobody. Lord Farquaad has been defeated, the box office is abysmal, and this is just yet another dumpster fire in a long list of failures that could have been avoided. But the fact that those critics actually thought this movie is failing because people are racist despite no groups, whether it's black, Latino, or any others, showed up to support this movie, means that I guess the ultimate lesson learned here is that, fellas, it looks like we're all racist now. That's right, I don't make the rules. Whether you're white, black, or even blue, you're all racist. Please repent your sins. Because you are all so evil for not seeing Snow White in theaters. Incredible. What a movie. What a legacy. But what did you think of Snow White and the 7 CGI Freaks? Did you even watch it? What about Lilo and Stitch? Are you going to see that? What the hell else can they even remake now? Have they done Aristocats yet? Oh, they are doing a remake apparently. Oh, God help us. They're going to ruin that too, aren't they? Well, it was good while it lasted. I implore none of you watch any of these remakes till Disney starts making good content again, but vote with your wallets, just go watch the originals or do literally anything else with your free time instead. Your soul will be thankful that you did, but thank you for watching, subscribe, always question everything, and I'll see you again.